The topic given to our Commissioner General of GRA is Agenda for Jobs, Creating Prosperity and Equal Opportunities for All, 2017 to 2024. We are only looking at the taxation aspect of it, how it affects you and how it affects me. My name is Iris Botchway, I'm an Assistant Commissioner. Now, if you talk about jobs, it's not only the one who is who has a business. We are also talking about the fact that you have to employ people. And as soon as you employ people and you are into business, then taxation comes in. So my topic is how we can comply with the tax laws so that we do not fall foul of Ghana Revenue Authority. Work with 4 principles. The first one is to register your business with the Ghana Revenue Authority after registering with the Registrar General's Department. 2 is to keep proper records. 3 is to file your returns and make payments by due dates. And the 4th is avoid unnecessary penalties and interests. Now, when you start your business, the first thing is to register with the Registrar General's Department. After that, you move to the Ghana Revenue Authority. Now, when you are coming to register in the tax office, you will need some basic information. If you are a limited liability, then we'll need an application letter wanting to register with the Ghana Revenue Authority. You will need a copy of your certificate of incorporation, certificate to commence business. And then you also have what we call Form 3. Form 3 are the details of the company and its directors. And then Form 4, you have the TIN, that is tax identification number of the directors and their addresses. And then we also need the profile of the directors. When you bring this to our office, we will do further registration. We'll interview you. We'll have to find out where you're located. We'll find out whether your business is taxable in terms of VAT. We'll register you for your tax types, and then you start your business. If it's a sole proprietor, or what sometimes we call self-employed, they come in with their business registration certificate. They come in with what you call Form A, that is the registration details, and then we also have a profile. We do the interviews and the other things, finding out where you are, because you need to be easily identified. And then sometimes we have the misfortune of taxpayers who say that, I do not have employees. Why are you penalizing me for not filing PAY return? The advice I'll give to you is that always remember that when you register with the GRA, you are to file returns always and on due date. If you don't have employees, there's a section that you have to take. If you are not started works, put yourself together, there's a section where you have to take. The underlying principle is that you always have to make sure that you file your returns by due dates. And because of that, we take time to educate the taxpayer as to what to do. But do not say that because the education was not enough, that is why I'm falling foul of the law. Please educate yourself and get copies of the tax laws. This is one of them. Get copies and the tax laws. And you have to be abreast with the laws and the amendment. That is something you have to do for yourself. And I must say that our Honorable, our Excellency, the High Commissioner, I knew he was on the committees that drafted the law. I saw him, we worked with him, and he did a very good job in helping us to draft the laws, the tax laws. And apart from that, if you have challenges, we are not sure, please do not work on assumption. Always get to the office manager. Sometimes you go to somebody who is lower down, the person gives you an assumption, you work with it only to realize that it is wrong. So the important thing is that go to the office manager, go to him or her, and let him either delegate somebody to help you or deal with the issue itself. Apart from that, we also have our website. You can go to www.gra.gov.gh, or you can send us an email on info@gra.gov.gh. Now we go to the second part. The second part, as I said, is to maintain proper records. We have the laws, the Revenue Administration Act, and it says that you are to maintain proper records. Now, the record should be seen to help you to first file your tax return, and then 2, to determine the right tax to pay, because the law says that you should pay the right tax at the right time. And then the records are to be kept for a minimum of 6 years, and before you can think of destroying the records or pruning them down. Now we go to the third point. The third point says that file your returns and make payment by due date. So first of all, it is very important that tax returns are filed by due dates. I'll give you some of them. And then when the payments are done, it's not just paying, but you should make sure that the computations are right and that you've paid the correct tax. And then each tax type determines the due date for filing. So I'll give you a few of the prominent ones that we are to file. We have what we call the withholding taxes. Now if you're an employer, you have to withhold the tax from your employees and pay. And so that is done by the 15th of the ensuing month. And then apart from that, in the course of your work, you may have to solicit services. So when the person says, pay me 100 Ghana, for instance, you don't put all the 100 Ghana into the person's hand. You have to withhold 7.5% of it and then give the rest to the taxpayer. Because once you're registered as a business, you are what we call a withholding agent. If it's works that the person does, maybe little construction or that kind of thing, you are to withhold 5%. And then, if it's goods, you are also to withhold 3%. You realize that there's a 2,000 there. That means that if the same person is doing the job for you, and it's more cumulatively, put it together for 1 year, and it is more than 2,000 Ghana cedis, then you are to withhold. But I'll say rule of thumb is that the business is continuous, then it's even better you start withholding so that you don't get into trouble. And then people hire premises to do their businesses. If you hire the premise from a landlord and you draw the tenancy agreement and you are going to pay him rent, make sure that if it's residential, maybe you want a resident for the managing director or whatever, put in that tenancy agreement that 8% of it should be withheld, of the tax should be withheld, so that the landlord does not take everything away from you. Make sure it is there. If it's a business, 15% of the rent is to be withheld and paid to the Ghana Revenue Authority by the 15th of the ensuing month. And then we also have company income tax. Most of the taxes you pay, the profit that the company makes is 25%, with the exception of the free zone enterprise and the hotel industries where they have some concessions. But most of them, it is 25%. And then in 2017, there was an amendment to the income tax law that made provision for young entrepreneurs. So if you're a young entrepreneur, up to 35%, you're into manufacturing, ICT, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism, creative arts, horticulture, medicinal plants, you shall be exempted from the income tax for a period of 5 years. And then after that, you'll be given a reduced company income tax to pay, depending on the region. And then company income taxes are paid quarterly. So in some offices, you self-assess yourself to find out how much profit I'll make, and then you divide it into 4 quarters and pay: March, June, September, December. Some offices, you are given a provisional assessment. So that one, they look at your business and industry and see that you can pay that. So depending on the office you find yourself in, you will have a basis upon which to pay your income tax. And then if filing of the income tax, if it's self-assessment, then you need to assess yourself by the end of the first quarter and pay the first quarter payment. And then you have to do a returns, and then you submit it 4 months. Submit it 4 months after the year has ended. If for one reason or the other you had challenges, you need to write to the tax office giving reasons why you cannot submit it. And you are given a 60-day mandatory period for which to submit your return. And then we also have the personal income tax. So that one is for people who are self-employed, and those who are directors, they have to fill that. For those people, their basis year is January to December. So you fill the personal income tax 4 months after the basis year. That is by 30th of April. And then we also have, as I mentioned, the income tax entrepreneur, the relief that they have. I've already mentioned that. And then, if you're an employer, also know that you have reliefs, and your employees also have some reliefs which they can take advantage of. So we have dependency relief, that is 100 Ghana cedis per annum. Disabled relief, that's also 25% of accessible income. Marriage relief, 200 Ghana. No, per year. Old age relief, education, children's education relief, up to 3 children. We also have training relief. And then, as I put it, number 4, avoid unnecessary penalties and interests. Penalties are such that if you fail to bring a return is just a paper with instructions on it like this. For failing to bring this return alone, you get a penalty of 500 Ghana cedis and 10 Ghana cedis for each day that the return is not filed with us. The interest is when you file the return, but you do not pay. And that one, we have 125% of the statutory rate, which is compounded monthly on the outstanding amount. And so, what we say is that, yes, as much as we want to create wealth, we need to be very aware of the taxes. We need to be aware of our responsibilities. And when that happens, we'll be able to create wealth, and then we will not spend unnecessary or money painfully on penalties and interest. I end my presentation. Thank you very much.